Element 1, report.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Lots of gear around here.
Element 2, report.
All present and accounted for, sir.
Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Element 1, falling.
gosh, I asked.
10.
10? Okay. Congratulations. You earned a 20. Thank you. How are you doing today, Cadet?
Outstanding, ma'am.
I don't know what those are supposed to look like, but they look great. Congratulations, Cadet. You've been a 30.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, guys, announcements. This week we actually have community service opportunities available this weekend with the Senior Olympics here at Prescott High School on Saturday 10 to 12. So please come to that if you want to. Yes, yes, sir?
What is the Senior Olympics, sir, if you wouldn't mind explaining?
Olympics. Running, shot put, discus,
yes,
Senior Olympics.
Yes.
Okay? Yes, sir.
Do we just come if we want to? Or
Yes, you come if you want to. It's community service, volunteering. Yes. That makes sense? Has everybody here done the 5 physical fitness tests?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Positively. You have not? We need it Monday, by Monday. So go do it yourself, record it, we need a number. And then Cadet McGee, you need to get everybody set up as far as first, second, third, fourth year best scores, and then submit that to your operations officer so he can have it for the entire cadet
Yes, sir.
cadet corps, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, sounds great. Guys, this second quarter, is focused around the Navy and trying to give you a military exposure to other armed forces than just the Air Force. Last quarter, we went through some history of the Air Force. We went through Chuck Yeager and some backgrounds and famous people. We talked about the actual, some aerodynamics, World War I, and then actually now we're going into World War II and other armed forces like the Navy, third quarters of the Army, fourth quarters of the Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. Very blessed here today to have Mr. Ben Allen, who I met here in the local area. He actually has an unusual experience in that very few people in the world have been in the United States Navy and Air Force and Army. Going back to 1945, so World War II to Korea, and then past that he ended up settling here in Arizona. And the rest of the story is he is actually a Badger. He graduated from Prescott High School. And probably, I'd be willing to bet, you know some of the names on our Veterans Memorial there in the foyer of Badgers that went to war and did not come back, that probably made the ultimate sacrifice. So it's very much an honor to have Mr. Allen here. Everybody give him a round of applause. Mr. Allen, you can do however you would like as far as this. I'll be videotaping you however you'd like, and if you'd like me to call up anything, I can do that. I can also, display this when you get to that portion of your talk, okay?
I don't want you to hurt your camera.
No, there's no problem with me doing this. You can have a colonel who will be your camera expert, okay?
I did attend the high school there down on the creek, the old one, which is now the middle school. And that's where I graduated in 1945. But before that, I was 17 in April of 1945. My older brother was in the Pacific on a gun crew, and I thought it was my turn. The war was still on. So I took my dad by the hand and led him down to the old post office on the south side of the plaza and enlisted in the Navy. At 17, you couldn't enlist anywhere. You had to have a guardian or a parent sign you in. And I went off to the Navy, San Diego, boot camp, and in August the war was over, and they kept me for a few months after that. Then they sent me home. But I had some GI Bill coming. So when I got back, I always wanted to fly. And I went out here to the airport at Prescott, and they had a flying school out there. And in those days, under the GI Bill, you could learn to fly. So I went ahead and took lessons and acquired a private pilot license,
Really? So what year was that?
46.
That is really neat. So you were in the Navy during World War II for how long?
About 8 months.
And that still allowed you to get
Yes.
a GI Bill.
Yes.
That's pretty neat. It's a little different than now, but that's
You can't do it now. They won't allow flight training anymore.
that's really special. So you came back to was Prescott Airport still named Ernest
Field.
Love Field?
Oh, yes.
Because he was a Badger also, you know, and I graduated during World War I. He didn't make it.
I need to mention the fact that I played football for Prescott in 1944, where we were all-stars, all Northern champions. And we only lost one game that year. That was to Glendale. They were the #1 team in the state the previous year, and they were too much for us, our first game. But after that, we won them all up here, and we were all Northern champs.
Actually, we need to brag about him. He is on the Prescott Athletic Hall of Fame. Right down here in our dome is 1944
Yeah.
football team is on there. And his actual picture is there on the Prescott Hall of Fame from.
I'm that big ugly guy in the back row.
And that is, you know, that's pretty neat. That's a neat work about
Today,
it.
sir, your pilot's license? You got your pilot's license?
Yes, I still have it, although it's something that never runs out, but you need to get periodic physicals. And if you're going to go out and run an airplane, the people who own it are certainly going to check you out to see if you're current.
Yes, sir.
And I haven't been current for a long time. My
I
wife
tell you what,
won't
do you
let me.
really have, do you still have the original one you had in 1945?
My original one was stolen from me in a license, but there's the one dated 53.
53. Well, I tell you what, here, you know what? These students probably have not seen something like this. Let me,
And a 50-year-old pilot's license?
well, like a 60. A 60-year-old pilot license. Let's see if we can get that up on the screen here. And again, it's good for them to see that. Let's see if that will work.
Something I really enjoyed doing in those days was flying. You'll see my wings over here. I finally got into the Air Force and got on flight status as a crew member. I'll tell you about that when I get to it.
So that's 1953, airplane single engine land, right there. I love it. That is really, really neat. Would you like me to show this to them here, Love?
If you like.
Alrighty. Actually, I don't know how I'm going to do that without. Maybe I'll turn this off. Does that help a little bit? Let's see how that works. No, let's see.
You can you can zoom out, sir.
No, we can't zoom out. I can zoom in. That's not good. There we go. So these were the first, you ended up getting, these are, which,
Crew member wings.
right?
552nd AEWC wing at McClellan Air Force Base.
Alrighty.
I was with them for about 3,000 hours.
Cool.
And I got into belly from flying out there, but I enjoyed it. If you can see these little airplanes here, that's the airplane I flew on. It's the Super Connie with it had a radar bubble on the top and on the bottom, and we would fly out from the West Coast, 100 miles out to sea, set up a racetrack pattern back and forth. And you'd sit there doing that for about 10 hours. Then when you got low on fuel, you'd come back and recover at McClellan.
All right, so then after you were out of the Air Force and you start learning how to fly,
Out of the Navy.
out of the Navy, excuse me, and then came back here to learn how to fly, then what happened?
Well, I finally finished high school and I needed to get some college. And so I went out to California. Some people out there that we know going to put me up and let me go to a junior college in Pasadena. And out there in March of 1948, I suffered a disastrous love affair.
Love affair.
And I wanted to join the French Foreign Legion.
It was not with an airplane, was it?
No. And when I found out that the nearest recruiting office for the French Foreign Legion was in Paris, I went into the U.S. Army recruiting office there in California. And this enlisting sergeant was a big John Wayne type, you know, lots of fruit salad and steely gray eyes. He looked me right straight in the eye and he says, I told him I wanted to join the Air Corps. We had an Air Corps in those days.
When did the Air Force start, guys? 19 when?
47.
44 when?
47.
47? What do you say?
I said 45, sir.
45? We got 45, 44, and 47. When did it start? We just had a test on this, actually.
1948, sir.
48?
I think it was 53, wasn't it?
47? 53?
49.
47. That's the answer.
I was right.
After World War II. After World War II.
Anyway, I told this guy I wanted to join because I was a pilot and all, I wanted to fly. I wanted to join the Air Corps. And he said, well, enlistments in the Air Corps now are closed, but if you'll join the regular Army, we'll transfer you as soon as they open. Never believe it'll be a sergeant.
Never.
That's how I got into the infantry and spent 4 years in the infantry with 13 months in Korea. These things are...
Well, so tell me, you said, first of all, the planes, because I can call these planes up as pictures here for the kids. You said, well, you hadn't flown the military planes yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Next comes the Army. I would join the Army for a 3-year sign up.
Okay.
And earn these things in Korea. That's the combat infantry badge. That's the unit I served with. That's the regiment I served with over there. This unit ribbon here with a silver star on it, that's not the silver star for heroism. I think that silver star indicates 5 battle campaigns in Korea that I outlived.
And this is an Army.
This is during the Army. I also received, I never wanted these things, but I received a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart.
And actually, that's a Bronze Star here. This top one is a Bronze Star, and it does have a V with valor. Do you have any stories behind that, sir? You willing to share?
No, I don't think so.
Uh,
I'm against telling war stories.
well, it helps for the next generation to hear it, because they
Well-
never hear it otherwise.
Not too many people, the old veterans really don't talk a lot about it because they don't want to remember or discuss the time they were so afraid they soiled their drawers.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
And then you got injured here. This is called a Purple Heart, guys. See the purple?
I got hurt in North Korea, and I wound up with a MASH unit in Seoul. I was with them for a couple, 3 weeks, and they sent me over to a rebel depot to recover, and then they sent me back to my unit. So I didn't even get out of Korea.
Oh man! So you were injured. Cadet Conrad Carroll has a question.
Sir, if you wouldn't mind my asking where you were injured?
What's that?
Where were you injured, sir?
Yeah. Right here. Maybe you can see a little scar here. Shrapnel. I was in the wrong place at the right time. So I returned from Korea and came home here to Prescott with my folks. And after about 3 weeks, I had to go out to Fort Whipple, the VA center. I had a gut ache that just wouldn't quit. I knew there was something wrong, and I was still a military man, and so I went out and talked to those doctors. They ran a series of tests and whatnot. I mean, finally this doctor sat me down. He says, Ben, you're going to have to lay off your mother's cooking.
You've been eating too much, huh?
I've been eating sea rations for a year in Korea, and then I go home and eat my mother's cooking. It was just too much for me.
Got too sick.
Yeah. So,
Tell them what the sea rations were like.
they were several different varieties, meat, hash, some breakfast in a can about that big around. Came in a box for 3 meals for the day. There were crackers in there and also a little box of 5 cigarettes for you who smoked.
Did everybody you know smoke back then?
I figured if it was good enough for John Wayne, it was good enough for me.
I bet that's how everybody's thinking was, sir.
Yeah. So I stayed with the unit in California until March. While I was in Korea, I was in for a 3-year hitch, signed up for a 3-year hitch, but we have what they call the Truman year. And the President Truman at that time extended everybody an additional year, so I had a 4-year hitch in the Army. I got out in March of '52, came home, and there wasn't a heck of a lot going on in Prescott in those days, so I got bored about it, couldn't work, could do anything else. So I went down to Williams Air Force Base. I didn't mind military life, I enjoyed it. But I just didn't like war and I didn't like the Army. So I joined the Air Force. And they had a hard time wondering what they were going to do with me. They don't have a call for too many infantrymen. They gave me a battery of 4 tests to see where my long suit was. That didn't help because I scored the identical score on each of them. And one of the officers happened to be looking at my military record and found out I had a pilot license. And he said, Ben, would you like to be stationed in base operations? And when I found out that that is the seat of flying for that base, that's where I wanted to go. And so I went down and was interviewed by the operations officer, who was a lieutenant colonel, and he hired me on the spot. And I worked there for a couple, 3 years, till I was transferred to Japan.
Where in Japan did you go?
A place called Matsushima. Now, you've all seen it because that's the place that got hit by the tsunami you saw on the newsreels.
How about do you know how to spell it?
M-A-T-S-U.
M-A-T-S-U.
S-H-I-M-A.
I'm going to display this up there so that you can, kids can see, where in the world we're talking about, and that will be a good example for them to.
I think I'd like to sit for a while, but that's all right. If you can't hear me, let me know. I'll be happy to increase the volume. At the Air Force, I was in good shape down there because we had 6 assistant operations officers. They were all first lieutenants and captains and pilots, and they were pilot instructors, PIs.
So there behind you, I've got Japan up, and actually you can see it right behind your head there on the picture. So it's good for them to see you were in Japan for how long?
3 years.
What was it like living in Japan back then?
Oh, I enjoyed it. And let me say that in 22 years in the military, my last assignment in my 20th year was Tyndall Air Force Base, and that was my 21st assignment.
So you think about it, guys. I'll think about the Air Force and moving. You said 21 moves in 20 years.
Yeah, in those 3 different services. And I enjoyed every one of them. Once you've been in the service for a period of 5 or 6 years, you can't go anywhere without running into somebody you knew previously. And it's great. Big family. I enjoyed it. And this assignment to Japan was worked out between the U.S. government and the Japanese government. We went over there in 1955 to resurrect the Japanese Air Force. And we all came out of the training command. I was a flight sergeant. And so we went to a Japanese base, which was at Yamato, Japan, which is right outside of Matsushima. Matsushima is a very lovely place and quite well known as a vacation area in Japan. It's on the east coast of Honshu, north of Tokyo, and just out from Sendai, if anybody knows where those places are. We had, I'd get a class of, the students had to be Japanese ex-officers from the Japanese Army or Navy, had to be pilots, had to have some English. And every time I get a new class, I'd get several of the pilots would come up to me and they'd say, "Pre-Sergeant Aaron, you teach us to speak good English." And I'd say, "Okay, you teach me to speak Japanese." And for 2 years over there, I was in that outfit. I was in Japanese language school for 8 hours a day.
Because they were teaching the whole time.
Yep. I learned to speak the language, and I learned a lot about the Japanese people. And those wings that are down on the bottom of the display there,
Okay, hold it. Let me get
the Japanese commander of the base,
down here on the
bottom left, bottom right.
okay, right here. Yeah.
Those were the wings that we gave to the students when they graduated.
Japanese wings.
Japanese
or,
wings.
okay.
And the Japanese commander, when he found out that I was taking the time to learn something about the Japanese people and learning the language, came down and presented those to me. So
Oh, that's very, very neat. So you're a rare American to have a Japanese wings.
本当よ。私は話少し日本語。
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, I'll tell you something about the Japanese language. When I went to Germany, I took courses in conversation German so I could talk over there to those people. I learned quite a bit, but I'm here to testify that it's a lot easier to learn Japanese than it is German.
Really?
I don't know if I believe you there. I tried to learn German, and it was tough for me. Where were you in Germany?
Well, I started out at Celle. That's up by Hanover in the north sector.
Okay, I'm going to show this to them.
We were on a radar site, and I had cross-trained into the radar field from base operations to radar operations, and we had a mobile radar unit up there, and we were guarding that northern
Part of Germany.
well, the northern corridor coming out of Berlin. And the Russians had made it a point to get in there and toy with our aircraft once in a while, and we'd have to call interceptor aircraft up to deter them.
How did you like living in Germany?
I enjoyed it. I had a family at that time. My wife and 2 sons were with me, and we enjoyed it.
Did you live on the economy or on the base?
I lived on the economy in northern Germany. After a year, we gave that site over to the German army. This was in 66, and I was transferred to Neu-Ulm, N-E-U-L-M, Neu-Ulm.
Okay, hold on. Let me spell that and try to N-E-U.
2 words, N-E-U,
Okay.
capital U-L-M. And that's in southern Germany on the Autobahn between Frankfurt and Stuttgart.
Okay, we got up there. That's not a very big place.
You're right on the Rhine River. Yep,
Right on the Rhine River.
Yep.
That's the Rhine River right here.
yep.
Okay.
Now across the river is a city called Ulm. We were in the south city across the river in a town called New Ulm. And in Ulm, they have a cathedral there that was built in the Middle Ages. It's called the Münster. And every night, the Germans during the war would get out and build bonfires around that place. And it was never bombed.
You mean during World War II?
Yes, during World War II.
Really? That's interesting.
That's
Why would they build bonfires around to sort of make it a target?
Say again?
Why would they build bonfires around the cathedral?
So it could be seen the Americans and British would not bomb a building that's a religious shrine of any kind.
They didn't want it to be accidentally bombed.
So I was down in southern Germany for 2 years, and I took the opportunity to travel extensively in Europe. I like to tell people that in my time in the military and after that, I traveled extensively, my wife and I, and we've seen 13 colonies, 50 states, and 55 foreign countries.
55.
55.
That's a lot.
Yes, and my favorite one was Wales. I really enjoyed Wales. That's
You want to tell them about what? Here, let's push that up here. Why don't we tell them about Wales?
Wales is part of the UK, the United Kingdom.
It's England over here, guys. And in this little hump, England has 3 parts. England, Scotland, and Wales. They're all one country right now, but they used to not be.
Now,
And Wales is what he's talking about right here. Where in Wales were you stationed, sir?
I wasn't stationed there.
Oh, you just went and visited, you're saying.
Visited there, yeah. As a matter of fact, my leadership, half of my people coming over from Europe back in the 16th, 17th century came from Wales. The rest came from Middle England. I had 3 lines that came over on the Mayflower.
That's excellent. You're a genealogist like I am.
Yeah,
I was stationed right here where the hand is. That's Suffolk is what it's called, and that's where Lakenheath Air Force Base, or RAF Lakenheath. And I actually flew over Wales a lot, because that's a very unpopulated area. And if I go in my office, you'll actually see my plane flying over a beautiful lake. And it's rare to have clear skies in England. They don't have clear skies over there. But it was a rare day that actually you could see blue skies. So my back seater took pictures of me flying right here over the center part of Wales. And also for Americans, everybody's heard of the term Stonehenge. You ever heard of that?
Yes, sir.
You know, it's a famous prehistoric,
almost.
religious almost. Yeah, but anyway, it's right out here outside of London where my pointer is. But the point clincher is they've actually done research on the hinges, the huge stones,
Rock formation.
and they were actually came from all the way over here in Wales. A special quarry. They found the quarry for the.
How is that possible?
It's amazing. Well, that's
They
part
claim
of the
that-
mystery.
Claim that the people who built it aligned it with solstice and
Yeah, it was probably a big
Stonehenge-
clock.
Stonehenge has
calendar or something. Yeah.
Multiple significances. The stars, and what you're saying built in Wales makes sense because they said that they would need earth movers, like our type of earth movers, to move them that sort of distance. No modern day man or even prehistoric man could have done that without.
Well, they did it. And
That's why it's crazy.
just a week ago, guys, you realize also there's talk of Scotland up here on the top part of England to succeed from England and become a separate country again. It used to be a separate country until the children, the King of England married the daughter of Scotland, or vice versa. I'm sorry, the King of England married the King of Scotland married the Queen of England, and they united the country. But now they're talking about succeeding again. It's very interesting. By the way, my family is from Peebles, Scotland. Right here where my hand is, Peebles, Scotland. That's where they came from, and there's actually a Denny, Scotland, up here right in the middle of Scotland. So all my family's from that area originally.
Have you been there?
Oh yeah, I lived there for 3 years.
Yeah. We
Loved it.
visited up there.
Really good.
Enjoyed it, yeah.
All right, so you enjoyed your time then in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm gonna ask a question, sir.
Sir,
What was your highest rank in all 3 of the services?
Master Sergeant
Master Sergeant in what, sir?
in the Air Force. I retired as a Master Sergeant. Did you ever know a Colonel Sporer, S-P-O-R-E-R?
No, do not know him.
He was the base commander at Tyndall when I was there.
Okay, well actually let's show them where so guys, this is Europe, okay, and then to fly to Tyndall Air Force Base.
I knew a young officer at Colorado Springs. I was stationed up there for a while at Peterson Field. You ever been up there?
Oh yeah, I've flown out of Peterson. Tyndall Air Force Base, guys, is on the west part of Florida. This is the famous Panhandle of Florida. And over here on the west coast is a base called Tyndall Air Force Base, and this is exactly where I was stationed prior to coming to Prescott. And you can actually see that Tyndall Air Force Base, they actually have the Air Force Base on a peninsula, and I flew F-15s out of there for six years or so.
Yeah.
Where'd you live when you were there?
We were in base housing.
Lived on base.
Yeah.
I actually lived right here in this cove, right here across the way, but it was real close. And the thing, guys, I love is these islands. You could actually walk out to these islands or take your boat. I ended up having a boat, and they were deserted, absolutely deserted islands that you go to. And the thing that these part of Florida is very famous for is the white beaches. The beaches are as white as talcum powder, whiter than sugar, literally. And it's just so white it looks like snow. And you can go to these deserted beaches and pick up sand dollars and conchs and all these other shells. Nobody's there.
They're called the Crooked Islands, sir.
Why is it called crooked? Because it's straight. Just kidding. It's crooked, of course.
I mean, I thought.
Why do they call it white sand?
I thought they had some of those.
And what is interesting, guys, you guys are East or West Coast kids, but you see, actually they have the Appalachian Mountains, which are right here where I'm they come up down the East Coast, Appalachians. They are not very large. Again, your feet are 6,000 feet above sea level. The Appalachians are 3,000, maybe 3,500 feet tall. They're the oldest mountain range in the world, the oldest. And they used to be taller than the Rocky Mountains. Really. And so through erosion, one grain at a time, they're now down as low as 3,000, 4,000 feet. They used to be 20,000 feet high. So the question is, where did all that rock and sand erode to?
Down to the down to where Florida is, sir.
Right down to Panama City, Florida, and all that sand, the white sands that I'm telling you about, they're crystal clear white, originally came from the Appalachian Mountains up and down the west coast. And of course, some of them came down to the beaches over here, but they're not nearly as white because it's not the quartz. But it's a real interesting place to live. It's totally different from this. So what do you know about another part of the world? So you really did like Tyndall Air Force Base then, huh?
Yeah, it was a good assignment.
About as different from here as you can imagine.
Yeah. While I was in Colorado Springs, I met a young officer up there. You may or may not have heard of. His name is Yule Wainwright.
No.
Does the name mean anything to you, Wainwright?
No, sir.
Vinegar Joe, still no. General Wainwright was the leader in the Chinese World War II.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And this guy was his grandson.
Jonathan Wainwright?
Yule D. Wainwright.
Okay, so Jonathan was the general.
Yeah. And he was a young first lieutenant at Colorado Springs, one of our officers. And he wound up in Tyndall and was a lieutenant colonel when I saw him down there. And he took one of his airplanes out and crashed it and killed himself. Known to happen.
That sure did.
While I was at Williams Air Force Base, I went through the altitude chamber so I could be qualified to fly in a T-Bird.
Great. Well, let me show them a T-Bird.
That's the most beautiful ride I ever had. The T-Bird. I've got about 60 hours in those things.
Of course, everybody and everything on the... So tell them about you flying in the T-Bird. They've never heard of that.
T-Bird is a T-33, which is the basic, at that time was the basic jet trainer. And the first jet I ever rode in. And I had to go through an altitude chamber to be qualified to ride in it. And every time we'd have an officer going out to Hamilton Air Force Base to pick up a part for the general's airplane. We had 21 general officers at Colorado Springs, to include the Army, Navy, Air Force,
21.
and Canadians.
Wow, 21. That's a lot. So then they had to do a lot of maintenance on the T-birds, then, huh?
Yeah. So,
I have a picture of the T-bird up there behind you, and it's a nice plane.
Did you say Canadians?
yeah, we had NORAD as a joint command between the America and Canada together.
Wow.
That's NORAD, North American Air Defense Command. Takes in the whole continent.
All right, we have about 10 minutes to go. Guys, y'all have any questions?
Yes.
What was your favorite branch?
Oh, the Air Force, without a doubt. A little side story about this. I convinced the young fella just getting out of high school. This was during the first Gulf War. And he was all gung-ho. He wanted to go Marine Corps or Army Rangers or something. And I told him, well, now if you want to sleep in the mud and eat out of a can, go Army. If you want to sleep in a cot between sheets and eat in a mess hall, go Air Force. I convinced him to go Air Force, and today he was spent 12 or 14 years in the Air Force, and he was given a hell of a good education. He became a maintenance man for atomic weapons, and the outfit that builds them hired him right out of the Air Force for a 6-figure income.
Wow.
He's making lots of money today.
Tell them about being a Badger back in 1944, because they're sitting here almost 70 years later.
Well, it was a great thing. We had a good group of kids. I put together a booklet. I went down to the Charlotte Hall Museum. They have the archives for the local newspaper, the Courier. And I went through all the 1944 records and dug out the team's experience and whatnot.
Okay.
And constructed a little booklet and wrote some things about it. And the guy down there at the Charlotte Hall knew what I was doing, and he asked me if he could have a copy when I got done. And I said, sure. So I had an extra copy made, gave it to him, and a week later I get a letter from Charlotte Hall Museum saying that my booklet has been accepted as reference material. It will be on the shelf now forever.
That's great.
And I wrote about that team. And in the last 3 pages, I listed every member of the team, what they had done for their lives. And the majority of them, probably 75% of them, wound up being teachers, principals, district presidents. They were educators. And I titled that thing, Our Own Greatest Generation, with apologies to Tom Brokaw.
That's good. That's excellent.
I got some notes here about some things I want to tell you. You're in your golden age right now. Very soon you're going to have to be out in the world, cold, cruel world all by yourself. And you'll have to look to yourself for everything you get. But right now, you got good parents that are supporting you, buying you things, feeding you, and getting you what you need. So utilize this time to the best of your ability and get a damn good education. I want to tell you about the best skill I ever learned in the military. Now, when you're in the military, you're either at war or you're practicing for war, exercises and whatnot.
War games.
And while I was in the military, I learned a skill that's been the greatest skill I ever learned throughout my life. I've used it for all my life. And that I went to a supply school in Fort Lee, Virginia in 1948 for the Army. And in order to graduate there, you had to be able to type 40 words a minute, touch type. And I did it. And that's the greatest skill I ever learned in about 22 years in the military.
Wow. Is how to type.
And today with the computers, everybody's got to know how to type. So if you don't know, get busy and learn. It'll certainly help you. I want to show you what else I've done. My son, several years ago, started pestering me about the Korean War, and I told him what I could remember. I decided, well, I think I'll just write it down, let him read it. And then I decided, well, I'll have to start at the beginning. So I wrote a book, and it's called How to See the World the Hard Way, The Unsolicited Memoirs of Benjamin Robinson Allen.
Good.
That's me. These are my memoirs. And I'm not telling you about these for looking for any pride or anything. I want to convince you that everybody in this world, you included, you have a story to tell. And if you don't tell it, it won't be told. Write it up when you get to a point in life where you think you should be. And I even got pictures. Naked pictures.
I got the naked pictures. Is that you, sir?
No.
I'm going to get in trouble for that. Here, point it out to the camera there. There you go.
This is the football team, the juniors on the football team.
What's your number, sir? I mean,
41.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, 41.
Jeez, it's like an AT&T side.
Yeah.
You're huge.
And one of those boys is, the little one was Ernie Bourne. Ernie Bourne was the son of Dr. Bourne. I don't know if anybody remembers him or not. Dr. Bourne was my mother's doctor for 40 years up here. Here's a picture of me. I had hair in those days.
You had hair in those days? We have about 2 minutes, sir.
So,
You have a question back? Sir, you have a question back?
yeah, go ahead.
Sir, do you know Gil Converse?
Oh, yes.
That's my
Gil and I played on the same football team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Gil very well. I think there's a picture in here of that football team.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I guess not. Any questions? I hope I haven't bored you seriously.
No,
You
sir.
told us a very interesting and invigorating story, sir.
Thank you very much.
We have, well, Mr. Allen, we really appreciate you coming. It's a lot of time for you to get out and come see the high school that you actually graduated from a few years ago. And I asked him what I asked him what Prescott High School was like back then. He said it belonged to the antelopes because there's nothing out here, right? And he never came this far out of town, so he didn't even know it was here. I mean, this is way far out of town compared to. Where'd you grow up actually in Prescott? Where would you live?
We lived, I was born and raised on Beach Street, which is just the other side of Gurley.
Okay. Well, that's right downtown. You walked to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
I went to school first. The junior high school was up on the hill where the sheriff's office
Right.
is today.
Right. Exactly. That was torn down from that. Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Room. Dismissed. Go